All right, almost there, you guys. Thank you for your patience. All right. Here we go. Let's open up with a prayer to the creator of the universe. Have an opportunity. I want you to turn your bodies toward the east. Find your way towards the east. It's where the sun rose from this morning. Yahweh, we thank you. Toda Rabba Yahweh, for the Yom Zeh, the HaShabbat. We thank you for this day of Shabbat today. You are our Father. You are our Elohim. You are the King of the universe. And we thank you for this opportunity to be before you as your children. We thank you that you've gathered us together to your staff, Yahweh, so we can learn about your authority. We thank you, Yahweh, that you've called us and you've chosen us to be your people. We're thankful that you've remembered us and that you remember the covenant of our fathers, Abraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov. And we thank you, Yahweh, one day that you will remember the land, that you would bring us back to our land, our inheritance, our heritage, and what you have given unto us and what you've promised. We thank you, Yahweh, for the exile. We thank you that you gave a command to destroy those, Yahweh, who have gone against your Torah. We thank you for sending us away and bringing us into the lands of our enemies to serve other gods, to know the difference between them and you, to understand what oppression truly is, and what the difference is between your words and the words of those who have oppressed us. We thank you, Yahweh, that you've separated us, and that your judgments have been fulfilled on us. We thank you, Yahweh, for all things. We ask today, Yahweh, that you would forgive us for our transgressions, our awanu, those things that we have done, those thoughts that have been contrary to you, have been perverse, have been out of bounds with you. We thank you today, Yahweh, for the power of forgiveness. We thank you because you are kind and you are merciful and you are compassionate. You are full of truth, Yahweh, and you do forgive crimes and sins, yet you don't exonerate the guilty, Yahweh. You hold every man and woman and child responsible for their actions and their conduct. And we're thankful for that, Yahweh. We're thankful for your righteousness. For without it, Yahweh, we would not know the difference between right and wrong. We thank you for your Torah, your instructions that govern us in our thoughts and our minds and our hearts, Yahweh. The way that we think and the way that we respond and the way that we do business and the way that we live our lives and how we run our homes, Yahweh, and how we treat our bodies and how we treat one another. We thank you today, Yahweh, for your mishpatim, your rulings, your kukim, Yahweh, your decrees, your pekudai, Yahweh, your accountings, your oversight of us, Yahweh. And we thank you, Yahweh, for your moedim. We celebrate you today on this Shabbat, Yahweh, for you are the creator of all things in the heavens and on the earth. And we give you glory, and we give you esteem, and we give you praise. Hallelujah! 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 Praise be to the living Elohim. I'm honored to be in your presence again on this Shabbat. Today, we're going to discuss this idea of Toldoth, which we've been talking about for the last few days, getting some inspiration and getting some understanding about what it means to be a generation and what the responsibilities are and how one's life is determined by their experiences and the things that they go through and the people that are part of their lives, and how the Creator himself has caused these things to happen for us. There were 4 chapters that we covered. It was chapter number 25, beginning in verse number 19, all the way to chapter number 28, verse number 9. Within those chapters, we find some different events that have taken place. Chapter number 25, we understand that Esau had sold his birthright. We understand that we get an understanding about what Rivkah had experienced in terms of her birth of her children and the trouble that they had within her while she was pregnant. Chapter number 26, we see that Avimelech, a sworn enemy of Yitzchak and the family of Abraham, has decided to push our father out from his land into another region in order to get him away from him because he becomes so great, and the people were overwhelmed by the power and the strength of our father and his wealth. But we understand that the Creator himself is the one who's caused this to happen. Chapter number 27, we find that Yaakov and his mother had worked together in conjunction, in total cooperation, to get the blessing that the Creator of the heavens and the earth has told her prior about what the destiny would be for one of her sons, which is the youngest one, the one who was considered to be insignificant, which we know today as our father Yaakov. And in chapter number 28, we find that our father Yaakov was sent from his family to his mother's family's house to go find a wife and also to evade his brother who wanted to kill him. Beginning in chapter number 25, I brought up the idea of this word, which we would call darash. Darash, D-A-R-A-S-H, da-orash, means to seek and to inquire and to ask questions. When you and I come upon the Torah of Yahweh, we come upon writings of our Creator, and we come across these stories of our fathers, we have to be able to seek answers from the Creator. These are not just stories that are given to us just so we can read them and just tell them to our children, but to get an understanding and seek out what the true meaning is. One is only able to do that after careful study and consideration and taking the time to read and to pray and to meditate upon the words in which the living Elohim has shared with us. So today I want to discuss with you some of the things that I found and discovered within the writings of Toldoth, meaning the generations, and the book of Malachi, or I would say the scroll of Malachi. There's some answers to our questions that we may have in terms of trying to find out what is going on between Yitzchak, Esau, Yaakov, Rivkah, Avimelech, and all these other people. And within this, you will find a theme, okay? There's a theme that gives you more understanding about what are the deeper meanings and understandings of people's behaviors and their attitudes. The theme of our study this week has been what I told you, which is the oath and the covenants, which are one and the same. Within the covenant, there's oaths, there's things that have been sworn. There's an agreement. You always hear me say the same thing over and over and over again. Whatever you open your mouth to say to the Creator, you must keep what you say. Whatever agreements that you've made with other people, you must keep your word, Israel. We have to keep our word. If you said that you were going to do something, you must do it. There's no exceptions. Because the relationship that we have with the King of the universe, the creator of the heavens and the earth and everything in it, is based upon a promise of him keeping his word. We have said to the creator that you and I would do what he said, and we have not. There's people today that are saying they're going to do something and they don't do it. They're lying and they're deceiving and they're false. There's people out here telling us that the covenants no longer exist between the creator and ourselves. And I'm going to prove again and again and again that that's not true. There's so many names that were mentioned in our Torah portion, our study this week. And we should be careful to pay attention to why these names are there. Your name is your character. It's who you are. And the Creator talks to us through these people's lives, and he lets us know who they are. Shem is the name, S-H-E-M, right here, Shem. They call it Shem, but the real name, how pronunciation is called Shame. And Shame is name. And your name is your character. The oath on here means names. It's plurality. We have a scroll called Shemoth, talking about the names of Israel. Names are important. They're the breath of you. It's how you live your lives. So within these names, within the context of these names, all these names that you have here that were mentioned this week, pay careful attention. We went over the name El Shaddai, the title of El Shaddai. Yahweh has appeared as El Shaddai to Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. That's his title. That's the burly one. That's the one who would devastate anybody that puts their hands on his people. This is why he always says, I'm your protector. I'm your reward. Don't be afraid. I'm with you. And this is a theme that you and I need to understand, that Yah is going to come and save his people. He's the burly one. We also found out that that means I'm the strength of the breast. I'm the strength of that which comes from the animals. I'm the strength of that which comes from a woman. I can sustain life. Yitzchak, we know his name means laughter. We find that in chapter number 26, where he was laughing with his wife and having a good time. And then the king, Avimelech, said, I thought you told me she was your sister. She's indeed your wife. Why did you tell us that she was your sister? He said, because you people would have killed me for my wife, because how beautiful she was. We see Rivkah. We know what her name means: to ensnare, to fetter, to withhold, to withdraw. We understand her hospitality and her kindness. We also see with Yitzchak what he did in the portion this week. He interceded and he asked Yahweh to, he made supplication for his wife. The children that she had was based upon supplication for a purpose. Avimelech means my father is the king. Akuzath means my possessions. Because that's why he brought this guy here. That's why this guy is mentioned. Ukuzath means possessions. Okay? She's to ensnare. My father is king. All mouth, that's this guy's name. And he was the commander. Adon. Somebody tell me what it means.
Red.
There you go. Red stuff. It was the lentil soup. What does Esau mean?
Harry.
There you go. Harry. What does Yaakov mean?
Because.
Because, and what's the body part that he's named after?
It's the hip.
The heel of the foot, because he was grabbing hold of the end of the foot. This is the name of Esau's wife. Her name is called Yehudith. You hear the word Yehuda or Yehud? Okay, it means to know. Here's Basemeth, meaning of fragrance. Lavan, it means to be white, which is the uncle of, and he's mentioned in chapter number 28. Yishmael, what does his name mean? Yeh means he. Shema means what?
Here.
He hears. And then on the last part, El is El. So if you reverse it, El hears him. Okay. Machalath is Yishmael's daughter that Esau married. Okay. I forgot exactly what her name means. Forgive me. It has a meaning. Machalath. I don't want to misrepresent what it means, so I'm not going to say it. All of these individuals have something in common. They all have different meanings and names, but they all work together. And what I want to share with you is this. If you look at your writings this week, and again, I'm trying to teach us how to study and how to understand the scrolls, okay? It talks about, did El Shaddai make a covenant? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, he did. And he reminded our father Yitzchak about the covenant. Did Yahweh tell Rivkah about who is going to rule and who's going to be the leader? Did he tell her?
Yes.
Which has to do with the covenant. Avimelech, Akuzath, and Pakal came and made a covenant with who?
Was it Abraham and Yaakov?
He made it with Yitzchak. They were afraid, like, hey, we don't want you to kill us and let's be friends. He said, well, you guys hate me. Why are you here? They said, because we see that Yahweh is with you. We sent you away because we know that Yahweh is with you. So we want to make a covenant with you, like they did with his father. Okay. The Toldoth. Okay. What is Esau and Yaakov? What happened there?
Birthright was given away. Was the blessing.
Birthright was what? Wasn't given away. It was sold. And he said, you promise me, you swear to me right now that you're going to give this to me. You swear it. You see that? You swear and you promise, and I'll give you the red lentil soup and the bread and drink. There was a covenant that was made. They sold that. He swore that. He made an oath. Esau married these two women right here, which are the Kitty. Did he go into a covenant with them? Yes, he did.
Yes. Married him.
Marriage is an oath and it's a covenant. But Uncle Lavan, when we get to our next Torah portion, he is making an oath. Yishmael gave his daughter to Esau, right? And so there's a covenant there. There's an oath there, and there's a reason why. So when you see all these names, you got to understand the relationship that Yah is the point that the Yah is trying to bring out to us. He's trying to bring us a theme to let us know that this whole thing is about oaths and covenants. It's all about agreements, as we've been discussing for several months, and we'll continue to talk about. That's what the theme is. But I want to tell you what the covenant is very basically, okay? So you can understand what they would call a berith. Berith, okay? A berith consists of two letters in terms of its root. If I'm talking about the family in the Hebrew language, what letter am I talking about? Family.
I would say the bet.
Thank you, Dr. Yared. Bingo, it's the bet. Like I'm going to make a bet. The letter B in English. Okay. Tent has the family, and it means a dwelling. Okay. The family dwells in the dwelling. Okay. It means the tent. It means a house. Okay. The house of the what? Of the father. Okay. What's the head? If I think about the Hebrew letter, put your device on mute, please, until you're ready to answer your question. Answer a question. Rosh. Oh, I just told you. The letter for that is what they would call a Rosh, which is represented by the letter R. Rosh. That's how you say head in Hebrew from this letter right here. So, as we see, the covenant or the berith has to do with these two letters. You could have easily looked at it and said, oh, I see it right here. Easily, we could have looked at it and said, oh, there it is right here. Here's the B and here's the R. Okay, and then there's a Tav right there. All right. But the parent root is a bet and a resh. And so a bet and a resh is telling us something. A covenant has to do with the family of heads. Okay. Because that's what a berith is. A berith has to do with the family of heads. Okay. That's how you write it in Hebrew, berith. And it's a family of heads. Are we talking about the heads of people? No, we're actually talking about the heads of grain. Covenant has to do with food. This is the reason why the Creator says that I'm making a covenant with you to give you a land in order to give you grain. And what you gonna do with the grain? Somebody tell me.
Eat it, get fat.
You're gonna eat it and you're gonna get fat by it. And who's gonna eat it?
People, cattle.
People and the cattle. This is the reason why the New Testament doesn't want to tell you about this. This is the reason why they're trying to get you off of the covenant, because if they get you off of the covenant, you don't ever have to worry about eating anything, and you don't have to worry about you getting your land that was promised to you. They don't want you to get the land. Do you understand? They want you to stay where you are in the lands of your enemies. If you don't have any food and you don't have any grain, you have no future. That's what the covenant is. It has to do with eating. It has to do with food. It has to do with the head of grains. But the only way you can get into this covenant with the Creator is through sacrifice. That's the way you get into it. Sacrifice, by cutting two animals in half and walking between them and making an oath and saying, hey, I make a promise to you. The idea behind the sacrifice and splitting the animals in two, and the two parties are walking between them, as you saw with Avimelech, and you saw with Yitzchak, as you saw with Abraham and Avimelech, as you saw with anyone who makes a covenant. This is how they do it. It's an alliance. It's an agreement. It has to be followed. It has obligations. You and I must understand what it means to be in a covenant. It's an act or a course of action to which a person is morally or legally bound, a duty or commitment. You and I are going to find out today that you and I have obligations. So let's review. El Shaddai made a covenant with Abraham in chapter number 15. Okay, he made this covenant with him. He replied, Yahweh Elohim. This is what Abraham replied, Yahweh Elohim. How am I to know that I will possess it? Possess what? The land. He answered him, bring me a 3-year-old cow, 3-year-old female goat, 3-year-old ram, a dove, and a young pigeon. And he brought him all these, and he cut the animals in two and placed the pieces opposite of each other, and he didn't cut the birds in half. As stated, so a covenant was made, and it was done by sacrifice. When a person made this covenant and they walk through those pieces, the two parties that are, because it takes two people to be part of this covenant. So when he walked through those pieces, the individual who made it and the individual who is party to it, they're joining themselves by saying, let happen to me what just happened to these animals. So if we cut these animals in half, let me be slaughtered, just like these animals are slaughtered. But here in context, in Genesis chapter number 15, the Creator is the one who walked through the pieces. Abraham fell into a deep sleep, and he did not walk through those pieces. What did he see? He saw, in the darkness fell over him, and he saw this flame and this torch of fire go between the pieces. Why is that? Because the covenant, Yah has designed the covenant that he made with our Father to be something predicated not on whether or not our Father would mess up, but it was something that Yah wanted to do for himself without any, not dependent upon the other person's actions. I need you to hear what I'm about to tell you. When the Creator walked through those pieces with our Father and he put him in a deep sleep, he put him there because it was based on Yah's promise, based on himself. He would never destroy himself, meaning he would never break the covenant. Never. He didn't leave the covenant up to human means. If Abraham would have walked through those pieces, we would have probably lost the agreement. But Yah put him to sleep because he wanted to walk through himself. So that covenant that he made with our Father is based upon what Yahweh had said in the fulfillment of what Yahweh said, and he will not break his word with his people. So when they say that the covenant is done away with, it would have made sense if Abraham walked through those pieces, but he didn't. The Creator did by himself, meaning that it can never be broken. He reaffirms this same covenant, this oath, to our father Yitzchak. He's part of the Toldoth. He's our ancestor. And he said to him in our portion this week, Yahweh appeared to him the same night and said, I am the power of Abraham, your father. Don't be afraid, because I'm with you. I will bless you and increase your descendants for the sake of my servant Abraham. We found out in that same chapter that he said that all these things are coming upon you because your father obeyed what I said, meaning the continuation of descendants, the continuation of blessing, the continuation of life, because he did what I said. Because at the end of it, I found that he was worthy because he listened to what I said. But I want you to remember something. This word right here is called zakar. Zakar. Zakar means to remember. We're told in Chronicles by the king of Israel, you descendants of Israel, his servant, you offspring of Yaakov, talking to you, his chosen ones. He is Yahweh, our power. I need you to remember that. His judgments are everywhere on earth. Remember his covenant forever. That is a command for you to remember his covenant forever. You are to remember his covenant forever. Why? Because the word he commanded to 1,000 generations. This is what he's commanded to 1,000 generations. The covenant he made with Abraham, the oath he swore to Yitzchak, and established a coat for Yaakov. In the English, they call that coat the law, which is a misrepresentation of what coke means. Simply CHOQ. Hebrew, the ket is a wall. The kof right here means to gather. Yah gathers those on the outside of the wall to the inside of the wall. That which is on the outside is gathered to that which is on the inside, which this kof right here is recognized as a decree. So by Yah's decrees, he gathers to that which is separated together, because the wall separates the inside from the outside. And what wall did Yah use to separate his people from himself? He uses the tent wall of his tabernacle. You don't have access to the Creator unless you have someone to go on your behalf, which he used the Levite priesthood to do such a thing. And by that, the decrees were established so Yah could be close to us. I want to be close to you, but I have to set parameters for you and I to be in the same space. And what brings us together are my decrees. Some of my decrees are the Shabbat that you're on today. That which is on the outside is gathering to that which is on the inside. Pesach is a decree, a kukim. Matzah is a kukim. Shavuot is a kukim. Sukkot is a kukim. First fruits is a kukim. Rosh Chodesh is a kukim. All of these festivals and times of gathering are times for us to be gathered back to our Creator. I know that we want him to leave his glory and become a human being. And so he can sit and he can get tired at a well and say that he's tired and even die. But he'll never die, and he's not going to leave the confines of his glory so he can satisfy our desire for us to say that we want to be close to him under our terms. We're not going to minimize him in order to justify ourselves. He's established these royal decrees in order for a humankind and a people can come and draw near him and be gathered to him. It is his desire, but it's going to be on his terms. I need you to remember that you're in a covenant with him forever. So someone tells you that the covenant is done away with, you bring them right here and you show them what the king of Israel said. It's for 1,000 generations. It's an everlasting covenant. This is not a covenant to eat a body and drink anybody's blood. What is the covenant? What is it? What is it? It's based upon heritage. This is the covenant. It is in quotation, him telling you what I told you I wanted to give you. To you, Yisrael, to you, descendants of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, will give you the land of Canaan. That covenant is not done away with. That is your allotted heritage. That is your inheritance. That's what you're supposed to remember and seek and understand. We talked about Rivka this week, last week as well. Kind, sturdy, hardworking woman, very intelligent, smart, witty. This week, it talked about the birth of the two sons, the twins that she had in her womb. The children fought with each other inside her so much that she said, if it's going to be like this, why go on living? That's a wonderful question to ask. That must have been a terrible time for her. So she went to inquire of Yahweh, who answered her. That word inquire is the word darash, which you and I right now are doing. We're making inquiry. We're trying to find out what the answer is. And Yah has spoken and given us his answer. If you and I would open up our ears and listen, he would tell us what the answer is, because he wants to tell us what the problem is. You're trying to figure out why life is the way that it is and why you don't want to live this way. He's going to tell us why it's this way. Why is there trouble inside of us like it was trouble inside of her? Yah says there's two nations inside your womb. There's two. From birth, they will be two rival peoples. One of these peoples will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. That word womb right there has to do with this word called rekem. That's a womb in Hebrew. Rekem. Rekem. I want to touch a little bit right here, just a taste, to let you know that when she's talking about these two different types of people, they're two rival peoples. You and I can understand that even within her, there was two things going on, two different types of individuals, two different types of mindsets, two different types of principles and understandings, two different destinies. And if one were to look at it, we would understand that you and I have to make a decision about what type of people we're going to be. There's a struggle that's within us that Yah is going to show us about today. Like she had a problem with two different peoples, you and I have two different mindsets, because that's what these people are. Two different mindsets. But within the womb, within the time or the place of trouble, there's this idea that comes out of the womb, which is directly connected to this next word that I'm going to tell you. Has the same letters, RCHM, RCHM, which is a Rosh, a Ket, and a Mem, called the Rakam. Rekem is a womb. Rakam, just different vowel points, just different ah sounds versus sound. Versus ah. So rekem, rakam, rakam. What is rakam? Rakam is mercy and compassion. That's what the womb is. A place of mercy and compassion. I need you to understand why this was mentioned. Because in the womb, one is going to find mercy and compassion. The womb is the one that's on the inside. The womb is like the earth. Remember, he always talks about, I'm going to deliver you out of the time of your trouble. He makes reference to the womb. You see, mercy and compassion was found in her womb. And Yahweh is the one who provides it. And this is the reason why he's revealed his name to the children of Israel, because Yahweh passed before him, talking about Moshe, and proclaimed Yoheh-Waheh. Yoheh-Waheh is power. I'm Elohim, merciful and compassionate and slow to anger and rich in grace and truth. Why are you telling me this, Akika? I'm telling you this because that's where our father, Yaakov, found mercy and compassion. He found it in the womb of his mother, Rivkah. That's where it happened, in the womb. And Yah provided it. Yah has told us on several occasions. He's used prophets to talk to us. When a prophet is speaking, and they're speaking in a singular form, like like I this or I that, they're speaking as Yahweh's servant. They're speaking as a representative for the house of Israel. You see? Listen what this prophet said. He said, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I separated you for myself. I have appointed you to be a prophet to the nations. Yah speaking to the prophet Yirmiyahu here, giving us understanding that before Yahweh had even formed anybody in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, Yahweh has known you. And he has separated you for himself. If that doesn't make you want to jump out of your chair right now, I don't know what will. You're not an afterthought to the Creator. Out of your whole entire family, when I put your family together, I formed you in the womb and I knew you before you were born. I appointed you to be the one that you are today. Well, you're saying it's the prophet to the nations. That's what Israel's job is. You're Israel, aren't you? Yes, you are. Yah's using this prophet to tell Israel what their responsibilities are and how he's always loved them. Has he not said in the book of Malachi that I loved you, I love you? And they said, well, how do you love us? He says, was not Esau your brother? Making mention of the womb. Yahweh called me, and he called you. Listen what he says in Yashayahu. This is Yashayahu, the prophet, speaking. He says, coastlands, listen to me. Listen, you peoples far away. Yahweh called me from the womb before I was born. He has spoken my name. Is he talking about himself? No, he's not. He's speaking on behalf of Israel. Yah called me. And these are the words that you need to say. You need to repeat these words. Before he formed me in the womb, he knew me. He called me. If you understand that and you say that and you believe that and you trust that, that will change that mindset. You would take on the mindset of a Yaakov versus an Esau. Yaakov's struggles has been there because he's trying to fight for first place. But look at what Yaakov is saying. This is not Yashayahu saying this. This is Yisrael saying it. Let me continue. Understand that our father, Yaakov, has been despised from the moment that he was born. Here is what Yahweh, the Redeemer of Israel, says in the same scroll of Isaiah, same context. His set apart one who says to the one despised, whom the nations detest, to the servants, the servant of tyrants. When kings see you, they will stand up. Princes too will prostrate themselves because of Yahweh, who is faithful, the Kadosh one of Israel, who has chosen you. If you live in this world right now and you don't understand that you're hated by the nations and they detest you and you're disgusting to them and you're despised, you were born to be despised, which comes from this word called, the root of it is called Baz, but its true name is Bazah. This is the root of the word Baza, B-A-S-A-Z-A, Baza. What does it mean to be despised? This is a bet, meaning the home, or the house or the tent or the dwelling or the family. Okay, that's what it means. That's what it is. It's a tent where people live. The family lives in a tent. The Zion means to cut. It's an agricultural tool for harvesting and cutting. Okay. So literally what this means is to cut the family, cut the house. You understand? And to cut something, you don't cut it for fun. You cut it with that which is hostile. That's what it means. That's the root, to cut the house. It means to be attacked. You are being attacked by the nations. You're being attacked by your brother. You're being attacked by your family. You're being attacked because you're despised. You're baza. So when someone tells you that you have the Holy Spirit and that you're walking with the Creator and that He's with you and that you're loved and you're anointed, you believe that lie? That's a lie. You're being attacked. Your family is being attacked. Your way of life is being attacked. Why? Because you're the servant of the Most High. Because I formed you, and that's why I'm telling the coastlands to pay attention. Why are they attacking you? Because they treat you like a spoil of war. But after they get the spoil and they get it, they said it's become spoiled. We can't use it. It doesn't have any value. You're valueless in their eyes. You're worthless and you're ruined. We've used you. We took you as a spoil. Now you're spoiled. Now you don't have you less valuable now because we're done with you. You know why? Because you were never created to serve them. You were never created to help them along in that way. You were never created to help just build their society and their way of life. But you know what our people are doing? They're singing for them. They're playing for them. They're entertaining them. They're teaching them. They're making them laugh. They're nothing but comedians and entertainers. They're in there teaching them how to take advantage and exploit our people. That's what they're doing. But that's what it means to be bazaar. That's what it means to be despised. Because this is how they look at you. And you don't understand that. Within this spoiled idea or this value or this being worthless, it has to do with possessions. Because when you go and fight against somebody, you attack them, you take the spoils. What we learned this week in chapter number 25, it says that Yaakov answered, "First sell me your rights as the firstborn." "Look, I'm about to die," said Esau. "What use to me are my rights as the firstborn?" He despised the rights of the firstborn. Yaakov said to him, "First, swear to me, make an oath. Open your mouth and say that you'll do it." So he swore to him, thus selling his birthright to Yaakov. But you and I know that he told his father that he supplanted me and he stole it from me. He took it from me. That was a lie. He didn't get that birthright by being deceitful. He got it by an act of, hey, let's negotiate. Then Yaakov, because he saw an opportunity, Yaakov gave him bread and lentil stew. He ate and drank and got up and went on his way. Thus, Esau showed how little he valued his birthright. Because the possessions of the birthright meant nothing to him. He devalued it. It meant nothing to him. It was ruined to him. It was like something that was spoiled. I have no need for it. What is this to me? The possessions in which he was going to acquire involved more than cattle, silver, and gold and servants, people. The birthright involved a relationship with the creator of the heavens and the earth. We find that not only is there this idea of possessions that have to do with this birthright, but also to the privilege. There's privileges that are attached to this. The privilege here is identified in the priesthood that we found in the book of Malachi, to make comparisons between what we learn in the book of Genesis in terms of Toldoth and what we're learning from the book of Malachi. The book of Malachi helps us understand the parallels between these two stories. Okay? In context, before I read this, I want to let you know. This is the same book that Yah opens up and said, this is the burden of Yahweh that's supposed to be carried by the hand of the book of, by the prophet Malachi. My messenger is supposed to put this burden in his hand and deliver it for me and tell the children of Israel and the Kohanim what it is that I have a problem with you with. Just like our Torah portion talked about how Yitzchak asked his sons questions. Tons of questions were asked. There was a request made that I want to give you your birthright. I wanted to bless you before I leave. Same here. Same thing here. We'll find the parallels. So in the book of Malachi, the creator is asking some questions to his son. Like Yitzchak asked his son, are you really my son? A father has a right to ask his kids, his son or his daughter, a question that they should be able to answer. Listen to what our father said. A son honors his father and a servant his master. But if I'm a father, where is the honor due to me? Where is it? If I'm a master, where is the respect that's due to me? A son owes his father honor. A daughter owes her father honor. A servant owes his master respect. He tells us right there. Also in the Torah portion, also in our words of the covenant. He tells us, hey, honor your father and your mother. But he says, listen, Yahweh's oath to the Kohanim, who despise my name, Baza. You despise my name? You ask, well, how are we despising your name? He's asking questions. And they're retorting. They're saying, well, how are we doing this? How are we despising your name? How are we treating your name spoiled? How are we considering you worthless? How are we bringing ruin upon your name? How are we doing it? You got to look at this word called nagash. Nagash means to draw close. It means to approach. It's different than just walking up and drawing near. This is different. This approach here is for intimacy. This is what this word means. Nagash means to come to get intimate. Remember, I told you that there was separation between the tent door of Yahweh and the people. And he told them, you guys can't have access to me, so I need a family to be able to join with me. And that's the Leviim. Their name means to join. So I'm using these priests to join you to me, okay? So I'm going to use them in the example to show you the mindset of Esau. That's what I'm showing you, because I'm asking him questions. Remember, Yitzchak thought Yaakov was Esau. He thought that. He's asking him questions. Yaakov went under the mindset of saying, I'm Esau. And that's exactly been our problem, because we were faking it and acting like someone that we're not. In the book of Malachi, Yah had said to him, by offering polluted food, now I'm going to answer your question. You're offering polluted food on my altar. Now you ask, well, how are we polluting you? He says, by saying the table of Yahweh doesn't deserve respect. So the respect with Yah had to do with their behavior and what they were bringing to Yah. How does this tie into our portion? It ties into our portion because I'm going to ask a question. I want somebody to answer it. What did Yitzchak want from Esau? What did he tell him to go get? Go out and give me what? Bring something to me. I want you to bring me some food. I want you to bring me some savory food. That's what I want you to bring to me. Okay? I want you to bring me some food. And what did Yaakov bring to him? And what did Rivkah prepare? They prepared food. When Yitzchak made that covenant with Avimelech, and they made a covenant. What did he throw? What did he throw a festival? Yes, he did. It's called a Mishteh. In the Mishteh, there was what? There was food. Food is part of the discussion. Yah ties these stories together to let you know what he's talking about. Food. He said, you're bringing food. You're bringing me food. Like Yitzchak required to ask his son to bring him some food. Yah the Father is saying, you're supposed to bring me some food. You're bringing me food because you have a privilege to approach me as the one that I chose to do this for me. But instead of you bringing to me what I'm asking you for, you're not. You're bringing something I didn't ask you for. Unlike what Yaakov did for Yitzchak. He brought him the food that his mother prepared exactly the way that he liked it. Just the opposite. So that there's nothing wrong. So this is what they say. So there's nothing wrong with the blind offering. So the food that they were bringing Yah was blind animals as a sacrifice. They were also bringing him fruit that wasn't the best. I couldn't put it all in here because I only have so many slides that I can do. He said they brought stuff and they thought nothing was wrong with the offering of the animal that's lame or sick. That's what they thought. They thought bringing him something blind and lame and sick is nothing wrong with it. And the reason why they thought this is because when you look at the Torah portion, what was up with Yitzchak's eyes?
Couldn't see.
So he was blind. Okay, he had dimness of eyes. So what was going on in here is they were bringing Yah blind and lame and sick. And the reason why they were doing that is because they thought Yahweh wasn't what? Yahweh wasn't not paying attention. Like in our Torah portion, Yitzchak he had to, try to find out who was who. But Yah's letting us know that when you approach me, I'm not blind. I don't have dimness of eyes. You can't pull a trick on me. You understand? He uses the priest to talk about it in order to show us what the mindset is of not only them, but the people itself, because they were the representative of the people. So anytime we want to get on the Kohanim, you got to understand that they're representing the people. So whatever the priests were doing, that's what the people were doing. They could not bring these lame and the sick and the blind animals unless the people were giving it to them. They weren't doing their job by examining whether or not this was, acceptable. Well, when you have blindness and your dimness, you can hide. Oh, you can hear me now. Yeah, Esau went to go get game out of the field. Game. But what did the mother present? What did they present? What did Rivkah and what did she prepare?
I think deer meat.
She did 2 goats.
Oh, sorry.
She did 2 kid goats. So it wasn't because it's still gamey, right? But check this out. Game is a little different than it is for goats. He didn't say, go get me 2 goats. He went and sent him on a trip to go get me the game. But she made it a way that he didn't recognize it because she was able to hide the meat through the flavor. She knew what his tastes were like. And this is what's going to get you. This is what you're going to be deceived by. It's what you taste is going to deceive you. What you have a palate for, what you got a taste for, is going to deceive you. And I'll show you more of that in a second. So Yah's using these priests to tell us what it is. They're thinking that I'm going to accept what they're giving to me, trying to show you the parallels. The reason why he's bringing us here too is because he wants us to understand about this blindness. He mentions this for a reason. He says, but if it has a defect and is lame or blind, or someone has some other kind of fault, you are not to sacrifice it to Yahweh, your Elohim, your power. Okay. And I forgot exactly where that's at. It was late last night when I put this together. I think it's in Leviticus chapter number 21, if I'm not mistaken. But you're not supposed to bring anything to me with a defect. And the defect is that which is lame, blind, or sick. I don't want that. There's a reason why I don't want it. Because the people that bring it to me, I don't want nothing with defects. Even tell Aharon, none of your descendants who has any defect may approach me. Remember, we talked about Nagash. You guys can't approach me to offer the bread of his power, meaning that his Elohim. You can't offer bread to me if you have a defect. You can't offer an animal that has a defect. You can't be a defective if you come to me. No one with a defect may approach. Nagash, no one can come near. No one blind, lame, mutilated face, limb too long, broken foot, broken arm, hunchback, stunt growth, cataract in his eye, festering of running sores, damaged testicles. No one descended from the Aharon, the Kohen, who has such a defect may approach to present the offerings for Yahweh made by fire. He has a defect and is not to approach to offer the bread of his Elohim, his power. I don't want anything with a defect. So you got these people out here that are saying that they're priests and they're saying that they're lying of Aharon, they're a lie. You have to be perfect in your body. You cannot have any defects. Period. You can't serve Yahweh with blind eyes. You can't offer nothing to Yahweh. I know the New Testament told you he'll come as you are and he'll accept you. That's a lie. I'm going a little fast. 5 senses. I want to talk about the 5 senses. In our Torah portion, we learned about the 5 senses that our father had. He used 4 of them, but he didn't have any success. The first one that I want to talk to you about is your sight. You all know that you have 5 senses. If you didn't know, you're going to know today. You got 5 of them, okay? And they're used for the purpose of judgment, okay? That's why Yah is giving you eyes and ears and nose and mouth and touch to make a decision, to make choices, okay? So it said in the course of time, after Yitzchak had grown old, his eyes dimmed, okay, so that he couldn't see. He called Esau his older son and said to him, my son. And he answered, here I am. I'm here. Here I am, Dad, okay? Because he couldn't see, okay? So make the connection between what the priests are trying to offer Yah and what Yah is saying. And look at Yitzchak as a father and look at Yah as a father and see what he's saying to you today. And share your thoughts if you have any. The second sense that was mentioned is that he talked about his taste. He said, make it tasty. When he told him to go get the game, make it tasty the way I like it. In our Torah portion, we found out that Esau was loved by his father because of the taste, because of the game that he would get for him. And it said, Rivkah, she loved Yaakov. So Esau was loved by Yitzchak because of what Yitzchak gave him, the taste. This is the reason why he chose to use this as his measuring stick to see for him to get this blessing. Of course, he was he's obligated to give it to him because he's the firstborn, but yet and still, he didn't care about literally anything else except for what was satisfying to him. Okay. So he loved things because of the way it tastes. And so that's why he's asking him. He said, go make it the way I like it and bring it to me to eat. So Esau was going to cook it and prepare it. So we understand from this that that relationship that they had was Esau would go hunt, he'll come back with the game and he'll prepare a meal. And his father loved the game so much. He's like, man, I really love that. I really love that deer that you be bringing back or whatever he's bringing to him, that venison or whatever. He had a special meal. And so he was like, this is a very great opportunity. So go give me that and then come, Bring it back to me. Kind of like when I tell my kids, hey, go bring me those, crispy chicken tacos that I like from such and such. And they go get it and I'll be like, oh, that's the best ever, right? Then I will bless you as the firstborn before I die. So taste was going to be part of it. The other sense, the third sense is the touch. Yitzchak said to Yaakov, now this is after Esau leaves, he says to Yaakov, when his mother prepared the meal, Yitzchak has said to Yaakov, come here, close to me, so I can touch you. So now he's trying to use his sense of touch to find out whether or not if he said, my son, touch you, my son, and know whether you are in fact my son Esau or not. So the first thing he couldn't use was his sight because he couldn't see. That was taken away from a very powerful tool that was taken away from him. The second one that he had was his taste. So what was going to be the deciding factor to know whether or not that this was Esau was the taste. And that's when Rivkah comes in and she makes it according to the taste that she knows that he likes. You could derive a lot from that, like, a way to a man's stomach is his or to his mind or his heart is his stomach. And the woman knew him. She knew exactly what he liked. Okay. So she was able to do that, which was going to be helpful for her son in order to get the blessing. Okay. And Yah made it possible. So now we go to the touch. So now he's looking because he does have some concerns. Is this really my son or not? So he's using touch. And of course, Rivkah has disguised her son and taken the hair of the goats and put it on his neck and put it on his hands. Okay. And then he says, oh, yeah. Okay. So he passes that test. Then he goes to the next one. Yaakov approached. See this approach like we saw in Malachi? Yaakov approached like a priest would approach Yahweh, his father, who touched him and said, the voice is Yaakov's voice, but the hands are Esau's hands. Okay. So now there's a question. The question is found in this idea of hearing. And we know the hearing has to do with what they call Shema. Forgive my writing. It's this idea of Shema, and Shema means to listen and to hear. So now this is the next tool that's being used to find out the next sense is being used to determine whether or not this is truly Esau or not. Okay. So he says that he touched him and he said the voice. So this was something that was in his mind about the hearing. The hearing has to do with the ears. How many ears do you have?
2.
You got 2. Okay. You got 2 ears. Your ears are the scales of justice, of righteousness. You got on one side, you have one ear and you got another one there, and it's called an equilibrium. If one ear is off, the next one you will fall over. Okay, so you need them to be balanced. So the scales are having to do with balance. He went through these tests and he said, you know what? I touched him and he got past that test, but then he mentions the voice. So now he's trying to figure out whether or not this is true or not, whether the scales are balanced, okay? Whether this is balanced, equal, okay? Because balance means to be equal. Remember, they're twins. So the factor of him seeing him, could not happen because his eyes were dim. So he had to look for other things to determine, but there was a question about whether or not he was this one. What I'm going to share with you is that a lot of the times when we fail in our justice is because we heard something and then he did what you would call, he played dumb. And he didn't act like he didn't hear what he heard. He should have, at this time, when he heard the voice of Yaakov, he should have did a little bit more investigation. He didn't. So what we're supposed to learn from this is that if you can't see anything, your next go-to is your hearing, is your ears. And Yah has used your ears. The same word that's used for ears is the same word that's used for scales to balance out justice. So a lot of times what it is that you and I will hear things, but you and I will act like we didn't hear it. We'll play dumb. People will tell us things and then you and I will act like we'll ignore what was said. But once you start opening your ears up and you start listening and you start really paying attention to what's being said to you, you're going to be able to hear the voice of what's really being said. He failed because of his hearing. He failed in his judgment because he what you would call, he had an imbalance. He had an imbalance in his ears, in his judgment. He heard him, but he didn't make the right decision. And so the Creator's letting us know that, guess what? I will give you ears to make judgment is to hear. But if you don't make the right decision, things can go awry. Things can go bad for you. Okay. So I give you 2 eyes because the 2 eyes are going to be your witnesses. Your ears are just important as your eyes are, because you can see something, but then when it comes to making judgment, as we've been told in the Torah, that Yah says that anytime you hear something, you're supposed to use justice and righteous justice and judgment. You understand? By that which you hear. So I want you to hear the cry of the widow. I want you to hear the cry of the stranger. I want you to hear the cry of the fatherless. I want you not to take sides. I want you to judge between the one who's a homeland person, a homeborn, versus a foreigner or a stranger. So that's why Yah has given us these ears. And because of the failure of Yitzchak here, he failed in this. This is what caused the problem. It's because he didn't investigate because of his ears. They didn't say anything was wrong with his hearing. They said he couldn't see. Okay. So he so desperately wanted it to be Esau. And guess what? He also too, he smelled it. He wanted it to be Esau. He did not want this to be Jacob. He wanted this to be Esau. So guess what he was doing? He was looking for any possible way he could. He was looking at the exteriors. And he said, like, hey, it smells like him. This food tastes like it. The voice is off a little bit, but you know what? Maybe it's me. No, he wanted it to be him. He didn't accept the truth because of what he wanted. The smell. Then his father, Yitzchak, said to him, come close now and kiss me, my son. And he approached again between the priest and Yahweh. And now you see Yaakov and Yitzchak. And he kissed him. And Yitzchak smelled the clothes. And he blessed Yaakov with these words. See, my son smells like the field, which Yahweh has blessed, going back to what the blessing is. So he attaches the blessing to the field based on the smell. Okay. So what are we to derive from this? We're to derive that, you know, what you have 5 senses, and you can't be drawn away by that which tastes good to you. You can't, if you don't have the vision and you can't see, because you can't see, I'm going to show that to us, that you and I are blind. So you have to use your ears now. That's what the Creator's telling us today, is that you guys are blind. Okay. And some of us are deaf. Okay. But you have to listen to what I'm saying. There's an idea too of not only the Kohanim, but this idea of the servant that I want to share with you, that he's saying about us and what the defect is in us. He says, listen, you deaf. You're deaf. Look, you blind, so that you will see. Who is as blind as my servant? This is in chapter number 42 of Isaiah. Who is as blind as my servant? Next time a Christian tells you that JC the Christ is the servant of Elohim in chapter 53 of Isaiah, the suffering servant, you bring him right here and ask him, is he blind? Is he the blind servant that he's talking about right here? Because this is the servant he's talking about. What, is he talking about any other servant? It's the same servant, starting in chapter 40 all the way to chapter number 66. It's the same servant. Who is blind as my servant, or is deaf as the messenger I send? So Yah is sending a blind and a deaf messenger? Yeah. Who is as blind as the one I rewarded? Past tense. As blind as the servant of Yahweh. You telling me that Yah says I have a blind servant? Yeah. You see much, but you don't pay attention. That means you don't shema. You got eyes, but you can't see. You open your ears, but you don't listen. Yahweh was pleased for righteousness, his righteousness' sake, to make the Torah great and glorious. So in spite of a person being blind, in spite of this servant being deaf in spite of this one who has open eyes and open ears, but they can't hear or see. Yahweh says, I'm still going to make the Torah great. The Torah is great by Yah doing everything he's done to us. The Torah is great because it said everything that would happen to us. The Torah is great because it tells us about our future. The Torah is great because it changes our lives and sends us in a different direction. The Torah is great because it's the light that lights up the world. The Torah is great because it's the instructions that causes the sun to rise and the moon to set in its place. The Torah is great because of the seasons. You understand? But we're blind. So when someone tells you that they have his Holy Spirit, you tell them, what does this say? You don't have his spirit. You don't, because it's set apart. Anybody that's set apart for the Most High is not walking around blind. Anybody who has the spirit of Yahweh is not walking around deaf. You understand? We're afflicted people. Yeah, that's right. He's telling us today that you're blind and you're lame and you're deaf. When that day comes, says Yahweh, I will assemble the lame and gather those who were dispersed, along with those I afflicted. What about the Holy Spirit? What about being close to God? What about him being with you? What about him blessing you? You're blind, you're lame, and you're deaf. And he also says that you're stupid. Why? Because I've afflicted you. You don't like these words. Why? Because they're coming from your father. That's what the priest had a problem with. What do you mean we're doing this? What do you mean by that? What are you saying? How are we doing that? You don't want to understand your state that you're in. I will make the lame a remnant and those who were driven off a strong nation. Yahweh will rule them on Mount Sion, and from that time forth and forever. So you know this has not happened yet. I'm going to gather and assemble the lame and those who I afflicted. What else are we to understand? We're to understand this word called tela'ah, right here. I wanted to share this with you because in my reading and my studying this week, I began to understand what was going on with Esau and with these Kohanim and why Yah has set these two writings together and how you should study them. The tela'ah is something that we need to understand. Okay. The tela'ah is what you would call this idea of being this tiresome, saying that you're thinking what Yah is doing to you is very difficult. And you think what Yah is asking you is such a great hardship. In the book of Malachi, my messenger, Yah has said, you also say, it's all so tiresome. And you sniff scornfully at it, says Yahweh Zavaoth. Then you will bring animals that were taken by violence, or they're lame or sick. This is the sort of offering you bring. Am I supposed to accept this from you? Asked Yahweh. Yah's letting us know that I'm not, just like Yitzchak wanted that tasty. And that tasty didn't mean it was sweet. That tasty means that it was spicy. It was salty. It was spicy. He loved the aroma and the flavors. Yah is saying that the aromas and the flavors that I want, you're not bringing to me. You're saying that everything I'm asking you to do is very hard. And it's so wearisome. It brings weariness upon you. So tired. Why are we doing this? It's a hardship to you. It's a weariness to you. I want you to consider the words that I'm going to say to you. After reading that, I thought that these people, they couldn't see any material benefits or rewards for doing the work that they were doing for Yah. More specifically, in context, talking about the Kohanim. They didn't see it, meaning they were representative of the people. That's the reason why they got complacent and started offering him the things that didn't matter and things that were useless, things that he despised. Because he said, you despise me by offering these things to me. You despise my name by bringing that to me, which I would never accept. If you ask someone else to accept it, they wouldn't accept it. Your governor wouldn't accept it. So why are you asking me to accept it? And it's this idea and this mindset of being complacent. in his mindset of saying that everything Yah has asked us to do is a hardship. It's too hard to study the Torah. It's too hard to learn the language. It's too difficult to learn what a verb is. It has so many different forms of, an active and a passive and a participle and an absolute. I don't need to learn all that. I don't need to learn about our culture. I don't need to learn about our diet. I don't need to do all those things. It's too difficult, so wearisome. It just makes you so tired. Nor could they understand or see the value in being the servant of Yahweh. And you say, well, how does this connect to the Torah portion? This is exactly the mindset of Esau. He could not see the benefit or the reward of his birthright. He did not see the benefits of serving Yah and being his servant. That's why he says, what is this birthright to me? I'm only concerned with that which is my stomach, just like his dad. Just give me what I like, what I taste. You didn't hear any conversation about him rebuking him for marrying two women that were from the Kittim. Even though the father of Abraham, his father, told him that go to my people and go get my son a wife from there and don't bring anybody from another place. So now you can see a failure on the Toldoth from Yitzchak by not telling his son to do the same thing. At the end of the Torah portion, it says Esau heard what his father and mother said to Yaakov to send him to go find a wife from his mother's house. So he went to Yishmael to go find a wife for him. His father and mother didn't tell him to do that. He did that on his own because he overheard what they were saying. And so guess what I surmised from that? His father wasn't talking to him about nothing else. His father wasn't correcting him about nothing else. He married whoever he wanted to marry, and he just went along with it. You don't think Abraham told Yitzchak, and guess what? When you have a son, to make sure that you don't take a wife from these people? He told him that. So we can see that there's a failure on part of Yitzchak's part. And the reason why is because he was his, ooh, you almost made me say something. He was his friend. He was his son's friend. He loved what he would do for him from his, bringing him game or the food he bought him or the food he brought from a restaurant or the video games he played with him. But when it came down to understanding the Torah, his father didn't put that in him. He didn't have no desire to want to be Yah's servant. He had no desire and saw no reward of following Yah. That's why our people have turned away from the great creator, is because they don't see any material benefits, because they're not becoming rich. And because they don't have a big house, or they don't got the good job, or because they're not socially accepted by people, or they're not esteemed, and they don't have the fame and they don't have the glory. The priests did the same thing. They didn't see any benefit. It's all useless. It's all worthless. Yeah, I asked the question, what am I supposed to accept this from you? Is he? Now going to our ancestors. I'm sorry for moving the screen so fast. I know it's a lot of information, and I know it's a lot to take in. But now let's talk about our ancestors, the Toldoth. Okay? So let's figure out what it is. Yah tells us to accept our guilt. He says to the priest, do you think I'm going to accept what you're giving me? Yah calls us to accept our guilt. Vayikra 26, Leviticus, for those who don't know what that means. Chapter number 26, verse 40 through 41. Then they will confess their misdeeds. Why wouldn't? When they're in exile. And those of their ancestors which they have committed against me in their rebellion, they will admit that they went against me. Right? And at that time, when they're in the land of their enemies, I will be going against them, bringing them into the lands of their enemies. I've done this. But if their uncircumcised heart grows, but if their uncircumcised heart will grow humble, and they're paid for the punishment for their misdeeds, and he goes on and tell us what that's going to be. I left it here, paid the punishment, because that's what they say in English. The idea behind being paid for your punishment is not paid for your punishment, is here in the Hebrew to accept your guilt. I told us earlier this week, we got to choose the choice. I'm telling you today that you have to accept your guilt of that of yourselves and your ancestors. True humility is accepting your guilt. You're going to be paid for your punishment by being brought into exile. That's a given. But he's not saying paid. Because if you think you're being paid, that means it's already done. There's nothing you have to do. When it says they will confess, that word confess right here is a hithpael, means a reflexive action that they have to cause themselves to do. This one here, admit, is a hithpael that they have to do. This has to come from within a person. This grow humble is a hithpael. These are actions that you have to do. And here is a hithpael. You have to accept your guilt and that of your ancestors. He didn't say accept their sins. I need you to accept the guilt of what they've done. If you accept that they went against me and they're in rebelled against me, and you too are a result of that, then I'll accept you. But I will not accept you unless you accept your guilt. I'm not going to accept you. I'm not going to accept you if you decided that every part of what I'm asking you to do is tiresome and is wearisome and you won't reach a Torah portion. I'm not accepting you if you're not willing to learn new things about me and your culture. I'm not accepting you if you don't be honest and say what your ancestors did against me. I'm not accepting any other God that your ancestors gave you, that I put you in that place to get. I'm not accepting that. I'm not, because I'm your father and I'm telling you that I'm not accepting it. I'm your creator. I'm not going to accept it. Continue on the ancestors. Let me tell you what your ancestors did. This is what the creator's telling us, that they rejected and they loathed me. They hated me. For the land will lie abandoned without them, and it will be paid its Shabbats while it lies desolate without them, and they will be paid the punishment for their misdeeds because they rejected my rulings, which is my mishpatim, the way that I do things, and they loathe my regulations. They hated my kukim. My kukim, my regulations, goes back to that word that I taught you earlier of the CHOQ. The kukim is just is adding the plurality of them. So one is a koch by itself, the decree, and the kukim, which they would change the vowel when they say it to a C-U-Q-Q-I-M. The kukim, okay, meaning the decrees. So our ancestors rejected Yah's mishpatim, and they hated his kukim, the things that bring us together. They hated the Shabbats. They hated the Sukkots. They hated bringing the offerings to him. They hated being gathered together to him. And this is the reason why he separated us. Since you guys don't want to be gathered together, I'll separate you from me. They didn't want to go to the tent. Going to the tent means you're a witness, meaning you turn your eyes towards the door, and the door is the door of the tent. They hated the new moons. They hated what I said. Everything that brings you together as my people. They hated it. But there's a message that I want to send to you today. I want you to learn this word called ratzah. Ratzah has to do with this idea of pottery. Ratzah was the word that was used when it talks about accepting. I told you accept your guilt. Okay. Yah tells the priest that you think you want me to accept you. He's using this word ratzah. He says, your governor wouldn't accept it. Why you want me to accept it? Bringing me lime and that which is lame and blind and sick. Okay. So ratzah comes from this idea of a pottery and a clay and pottery. And back in the ancient days in our culture, they used to write a message on this clay. Okay. On the clay tablet. The message then would have to be sent somewhere. This is the reason why Yah is using this word message in the book of Malachi, because Malachi is my messenger. So this is what Yahweh was doing. He was sending a message to his people through the prophet Malachi, his messenger. Okay. So this idea of acceptance, Yah has brought out to us, because to something to be received, it has to be accepted. Okay. So he's saying that I'm going to write a message to you. Okay. And when I write the message, I'm going to send it. I'm going to send it by a messenger. The messenger is going to run with the message. And because the message is my desire A person would write what their desire was. They would write what the one's will is. That's what your desire is. It's your will. So the creator says, I'm the one who's write my will and my desire down for you, and I'm going to send it to you. Okay. And back then he sent it in pottery and clay. Now, once the messenger gets this message, he's going to deliver the message, which is the desire or one's will, to someone else. So it's taking the message from one place to take it on behalf on someone else. The runner has to run a course. So they have a direction that they're going. The course is the person's path. Okay. Once they run that path, okay, they're going to deliver it to the person that they're supposed to deliver it to. So what Yah is telling us is this: according to this word of acceptance, which is called ratza, I am only going to accept my own desire. I'm only going to accept what my will is. I'm only going to accept the message that I sent to you. I'm only going to accept that. I don't care who's the one delivering it, the messenger. You're getting it. They're running and telling you what the course of action is that you need to take. And I'm going to show you the path that I'm looking for. If you're not on that path, you're not in my will. My desire for you is to get on the path. That's why I'm sending you the message. So I have to send you the message. I have to correct you. So when the creator was correcting the priest in the book of Malachi, he's giving us, through the priest, the heads up about what his desire and his will is. And his will is that you don't offer anything to me that's blind, that's sick, and that's lame, because I'm not going to accept it. I'm not accepting anything that has a defect in it. And the defect that I'm seeing with you, like I told you, you're a blind servant, is this: you have to understand and accept that you're blind. And you have to accept that you're deaf, and you have to accept that you're lame, because if you don't accept that, that means that you don't understand that I'm the one who afflicted you. You see, because if you have healing that I don't know about, that means that you're healed and someone else has done it. And the God that did this to you, the Elohim that did this to you, is not the one you're looking for. Because once I accept you, then I'm going to remember the covenant. Once you accept what I said and you accept your guilt and you understand the message, then I will remember my covenant with Yaakov, and I also remember my covenant with Yitzchak and my covenant with Abraham, and I will remember the land. But you have to ratza. You have to ratza. You have to understand this. In the book of Malachi, chapter 1, verse 9, it says this: so if you pray now, the Elohim will show his favor, so that your actions have accomplished what your actions have accomplished is that Yahweh Zavaoth asks, will he receive any of you? Will he receive any of you? That's the question. Why doesn't even one of you shut the doors and thus stop this useless lighting of fires on my altar? Why? Because I'm not happy. I don't take any pleasure in you, says Yahweh Zavaoth. I don't take no pleasure in you. I can't take any pleasure in you, okay? Because you're not doing what I asked you, because you're not following my will. I will not receive any. Okay, I will not receive an offering from you. That's what he was telling the priest, which he's telling us the same thing. I'm not accepting nothing from you. Not until you become what? Till you become Tamim. I can't accept you until you become whole. I can't accept you until I bring you back to your land and I cleanse you. I cannot accept you until I give you a new heart. I cannot fully accept you until you say that you're sorry. I can't. And I won't. That's very difficult for us because we have despised God. We have despised him and treated his words, and that's our ancestors. And therefore you got to accept that. Even moving forward in our Torah, we need to understand this. You seem like you're always telling, you're tearing us down. I'm not tearing you down. I'm telling you the truth. Children, Yahweh's children, need to hear the truth. I don't need to get you pumped up. I need to tell you the truth. The word that I'm going to focus on here is called Satan. You've heard a word called Satan, a S, a A, a T, and an A, and an N called Satan or Satan. This one is different. It's called Satam. Two different words. They share something very similar, but they're different. Okay. They're a little different. I'm going to share this word with you because this is what was found in your Torah portion. It means a grudge. Esau hated his brother. They're using that word hate there, but that's not accurate because the hatred there would be saneh, and it's not saneh. It's satam. He had a grudge against his brother because of the blessing of his father had given him. Esau said to himself, the time for mourning my father will come soon, or will soon come. And then I will kill my brother, Yaakov. And the reason why he wanted to kill him was because of a grudge. Grudge. There's a group of people called Amalek. There's a man called Amalek in the Hebrew scriptures that's related. He's of the Toldoth of Esau. Yahweh said to Moshe, write this in a book to be remembered and tell it to Yehoshua. I will completely blot out any memory of Amalek from under heaven. Moshe built an altar, called it Yahweh, Nisi. Yahweh is my banner protector. And said, because their hand was against the throne of Yah, Yahweh will fight Amalek generation after generation. Amalek is a descendant of Esau. So Yah not only has a problem with this man, okay, because he holds a grudge against him, but he had a wife called Edah, and he had this son called Eliphaz, and Eliphaz had Timnah, okay, concubine of him, and they had this son Amalek. Amalek is a grandson of Esau. So Yahweh has a problem with him. And he says, I'm going to wipe him off the face of the earth. Why? Because when the children of Israel came out of Mizraim, these people right here attacked them from behind and killed a few of them. And he said, you know what? I'm gonna forever be at war with him because he's raised his hand to Yahweh's throne. So now we see that Esau's family, his Toldoth, has a problem with Yah. Okay, so when it says that Yah hates Esau and he loves Yaakov, now you can understand why. He's not just talking about Esau, he's talking about a lot of people in his family. Okay, and this is what he doesn't want us to forget. Yah says, don't forget, when Yahweh your Elohim gives you the rest from all your enemies around you in the land that he's giving you to possess as an inheritance, you shall blot out the name of Amalek from under heaven, which is one of Esau's Toldoth, was part of his generations. Okay, he says, don't forget, I want you to destroy them. Because why? Because they're holding a grudge. They have a lot of ill will. Okay, this is what it is. All this happened. So when this war was going inside of Rivqah, this is what Yah was telling her. This is what it's going to be. They're going to be in total opposition against each other. Go and proclaim these words toward the north. Return, you backsliding Israel, says Yahweh. I will not frown on you, for I'm a merciful, says Yahweh. I will not bear a grudge forever. I put this in here because I wanted you to understand something. Yah says that he's going to be forever angry at Esau, and that he's forever angry. He's going to destroy them. And he's forever angry at Amalek. But now he says, I'm not going to bear a grudge. Well, the fact of the matter is, Yah doesn't bear a grudge against Israel. He will never bear a grudge against us. You and I should be excited about that. You and I should be happy that Yah doesn't hold a grudge against us. But guess what he tells us to do? Only acknowledge your guilt. Going back to what he told us in Leviticus. Only acknowledge your guilt. That you have committed crimes against Yahweh your Elohim, that you were promiscuous with strangers under every green tree, and that you had not paid attention to my voice. I won't hold a grudge against you, but you got to acknowledge your guilt. Okay. So here we're going to talk about you. There's something about the Edomi, Esau, and the nations that I'm going to try to quickly go through. The Torah tells us that you and I are not to take vengeance or bear a grudge against any of our people. No. Rather, love your neighbor as yourself, for I am Yahweh. That's Yahweh's command. That's in the Torah. You know, I cannot hold a grudge against any of our people. If you notice, in context, he talks about any of your people. Israel. You can't hold a grudge against nobody in Israel. I don't care about what wrong they have done. You cannot hold a grudge because Yahweh said, does he hold a grudge against us? No, I don't hold it against Israel. So how, if the creator of the heavens and the earth doesn't hold a grudge against his people, neither can you. You cannot have any ill will towards your brother or your sister. If you have any grudges today, I tell you right now, today, from the creator of the heavens and the earth, you got to let it go. I didn't have time to put in here, talked about to go to your brother that has transgressed against you and committed a crime against you. You go to him or her and you bring it to her attention. They don't give you a response. You go on humility. If they don't respond to you in kind and they don't accept the guilt of their crime, you leave it in Yahweh's hands. Vengeance belongs to Yahweh. Let him take care of it because he will. Okay, so no grudges. The Adomi. In the Torah, we find that you are not to detest an Ammoni. If you see the Adomi right there, the Edom is Edom right here, and the E right here is mine, meaning possessive. So anybody that belongs to this family, I don't need you to detest them. You cannot detest an Edmoni. We saw this, the chart that we had, the Edmoni, right? Which Amalek is, Yah tells you that you're going to fight against them. But there's other parts of Esau and his family that Yah says, you can't detest him. Why? Because he's your brother. He's your brother. He's your father's son. And you can't do that. You are not to detest, meaning, and detest is not hate, but it means this, that you can't treat them, you can't abhor them. You can't say that they're an abomination to you, like, ew, get away from me. You can't do that because they're your blood, they're your brother. You can't detest an Egyptian. Even the people who had you in slavery, you can't detest them because why? You lived as a foreigner in his land. So you and I might not fully understand this, like, well, they're the ones who had us in bondage. They're the ones who's talking crazy and mistreating us. He says, you can't do that. You cannot mistreat your brother, okay? Or an Egyptian, okay? You can't do it. That's the Torah. So there's something that he wants us to consider. You need to consider the judgment. Because if you want to continue to go against the Torah about what you just read, he says there's something for you, okay? Psalms 50, 20 through 22 says, you sit and you speak against your kinsmen, meaning your relatives. You slander your own mother's son, not just your father's son, but now your mother's son. When you do such things, should I stay silent? That's the question. This is the creator speaking through David and through the prophets, through the Levim, and telling them, you may thought that I was just like you. I'm not like you, but I will rebuke and indict you to your face. Consider this, you who forget Elohim, or I will tear you to pieces with no one to save you. You and I cannot speak against our family members. You and I cannot speak against our mother's son or our father's son. You and I cannot speak it against an Adomi. You cannot detest them. You cannot. You understand? Because Yah says, I'm not going to stay silent on that. And what he's saying is, well, you think I'm like you, and you keep thinking I'm a man, and you keep thinking that I have rationale like you. I don't. I'm the creator. I have a right to hate the people that I hate, and I have a right to destroy whoever I want to destroy. You don't have that right. You don't. That's why I'm not going to allow you, because if I allowed you to hate an Edomi and detest them, then you're doing exactly the very thing that they did to you, and that's the reason why I'm destroying them. So I don't want you to do that, okay? Esau was an opportunist, okay? And we find this in the book of Malachi, chapter number 1, verses 2 and 3. He said, yet I loved Yaakov, but I hated Esau. I sonay him. I hate him. I have some distance between him. Why? Because he's an opportunist. And the reason why you know he's an opportunist is because he says, I made his mountains desolate and gave his heritage, okay, his territory to desert jackals. So the desert jackal, again, was the one who sought opportunity and would take advantage of any situation that came about. They're very opportunistic, okay? They like to exploit situations where they can receive the benefit from someone else's downfall. And that's exactly what Edom did. I didn't have a whole bunch of time and slides to put onto you, but I would have some recommended reading for you to go through Ezekiel chapter number 35. So you can fully read about what Yah has planned for Edom, okay? I want you to go to Isaiah or Yashayahu And I want you to read chapter number 34, the whole entire chapter. I also want you to read Obadiah. Now you can see why I couldn't put it all up here so much. I want you to read the whole entire scroll of that. Well, it's only one chapter, but it's one whole entire scroll. And there's other places, but these three areas here, these three scrolls right here are the ones that give you a lot of insight about what Esau has done. You know, they want to take over Yahweh's land. Okay. That's what they want to do because they want to get the inheritance. Okay. So when we looked at this idea of him being an opportunist and looking to exploit any given situation, the idea of a mindset came to me. Okay. So again, we're not just talking about two individuals, we're talking about two nations, but two nations, they have minds, they have thoughts. So it's a mindset. So the mindset that Yah wants us to understand is that a person who exploits someone's circumstances, they only do that to gain some type of advantage, you know, rather than being guided by principles or laws or the Torah or different plans, right? Then I said, well, what about the people who are, you know, opportunist, you know, they're opportunists. And I said, well, they're consistent in that as well. So they're not only not consistent in following the principles and the plans and the outline that's outlined in the Torah, but they're also, they're consistent in exploiting people. Meaning that that's what a jackal does. It's always about a pursuit. It's always about pursuing something. That's someone who's always involved in this. They're always looking for an opportunity. That's why they call it an opportunist. They want to exploit something. They want to take advantage. They want to benefit from someone else's downfall. So we have to be careful about our mindset, because if you hold a grudge, you're that mindset of Esau. If you're an you're opportunist, you know, you see, well, I could take advantage of someone who's gone through something really bad right now. Let me hop in there. You know, someone is having some marital problems. Well, let me move right in and comfort his wife or her husband. You know, oh, I see you know, someone's business just went down. Now I can really get what I wanted. That kind of thing. Yah is saying, don't be like that. Don't be consistent in that, because Yah says those are the type of people that I'm destroying. So this has to do with a mindset. Also, too, in the study, I found that in the book of Tehillim, which is Psalms, there's the word or letter in a Psalm. Psalms 119 is what they would call, they have every 8 verses, they got a Hebrew letter. So, you know, verses 1 through 8 is Aleph, verses 9 through 16 is, or 17 is, you know, the Bet, and then the Gimel, and then the Dalet, and then they go all the way down. The whole Hebrew alphabet is in Psalms 119. And in each one of those sections that they have right there, okay, which is divided into, they have one called a Samak, okay, or Semech. And the Semech is like this, okay? It's a Hebrew letter called Semech. And so when I was reading this and I was finding out about grudges and stuff like that, I looked at it, and it said that David had brought this idea about how he hated a double-minded person, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a mindset. So he said that he hated a double-minded people. I said, well, why is that in that letter of Samach? Because this word hate again is Saneh, and it begins with a Samach. Okay. That's the letter it begins with. And that letter has to do with turning away, because it's a thorn bush in Hebrew. It's a thorn bush. That's what the symbol is. It's a thorn bush. So when we talk about turning and hating someone, you're turning away from that person. So what David is saying here is that he hates double-minded people, meaning that I'm turning away from those type of people, right? And he says, but I love the Torah, which tells us that you can't love Torah if you're double-minded. You know, he hates double-minded people. And he's not being a hypocrite here. He's saying that when I follow the Torah, I myself can no longer be double-minded. So you can't be on the fence like, I'm gonna hold a grudge when I want to. Yah says, I'm gonna visit you for that. And we haven't been told that Yah's visiting for that. On something like that, Yah will visit you. He'll destroy you over holding a grudge. That's why people don't want to come over to the Torah. Because if you come to the Torah, that means you're going to be held responsible for your thoughts and your actions. And they don't want that. But that's what Yah is talking about. They want someone else to do it for them. So you and I have to not be double-minded. You have anything ought with someone, you need to work it out. And you need to find out what it is, okay? Can't be double-minded. You got to turn away from it. Esau also, too, in the scriptures is identified by this word here, Seir, okay? And Seir is a mountain region that's found in the deserts of around Israel. Remember, Israel was traveling and they were going and trying to get to the land, and they passed by Mount Seir, and he asked Edom for help, and he said, no. Can we buy your food and water? He said, no. And he turned him down. He said, I says, don't go into their land because I'm not giving it to you because I gave it to them. So he gave Mount Seir to Esau and his family. And so Yah says something about Seir. Yah is very angry with them. And he says, because of your long-standing hatred, you put the people of Israel to the sword at their time of calamity. Okay. And this is just part of Ezekiel that I told you to go read. You put them to the sword at their time of calamity and at the time of final iniquity. Right before I put them out of Jerusalem, this is what you did. Therefore, as I live, Supreme Master Yahweh swears, because he's swearing an oath now, I will prepare you for blood. Blood will pursue you. You intensely hate your own blood relatives. Therefore, blood will pursue you. So you can see God's judgment. You can see that he's telling them, I'm going to prepare you for blood because you hate your own blood. That's why I told you guys not to hate your own brother. Because if I'm just and I'm righteous. So if I'm going to go kill all of them because of their hatred towards you, you think I'm going to let you go? I just told you that you can't hold a grudge against your brother. Because this is what's going to happen to the people that hold their grudge. Yah's not a respecter of persons here in the sense of his judgment. He cannot be. Okay. So that's what he said to Mount Seir. Finally, we find out about the nations. The nations also too, Yah's calling them. Okay. He says, come close, you nations, and listen. You pay close attention, you peoples. So this is a message to the nations. Let the earth hear and everything in it, the world with all it produces. For Yahweh is angry at every nation. Okay? So in spite of Christ dying on the cross for you, he's mad at every nation. He's furious with all their armies. He has completely destroyed them. He's letting you know that I'm going to destroy them. In my mind, they're completely destroyed. And he's handing them over to be slaughtered. And that's in Isaiah 34 that I told you can find about Edom, okay? There's a judgment for them. Their slain of the world, okay, will be thrown out. The stench will rise from their corpses. Who? The world and the earth and everything in it. The mountains will flow with their blood. Who? Humanity. The whole host of heaven will decompose. The heavens themselves will be rolled up like a scroll, and all their array will wither away like a withering grape leaf that falls from a vine, or a withered fig from a fig tree. Why? Because I'm bringing judgment. They're doomed. For my sword has drunk its fill in heaven, meaning after I've destroyed that which is in heavens, meaning the clouds and skies and all that type of stuff, having the stars fall out the sky and heavens will roll back. And I'm ready to do my descent. I'm going to descend on Edom, and I'm going to judge them, the people whom I have doomed to destruction. Okay? So, again, you're not able to test them. Why? Why detest them when they're already doomed? I hate them, Yah says. They can build, but I'll destroy. Yah has doomed these people. And Edom is still here today. He's still here. So this is something they get to look forward to. So when you think about Esau and Jacob, remember, you think Esau is the one he is in charge, and Yaakov is the one who came behind. He's the one that's on the heel of things. He's at the end. So at the end of Jacob, or the end of Esau, will be the beginning of Jacob. So Yah's going to bring an end to these people, okay? And you have enemies, okay? Psalms and Tehillim 83, 4 through 7 says this. They say, come, Let's wipe them out as a nation. Let the name of Israel be remembered no more. With one mind, they plot their schemes, the covenant they have made against you. They're talking to Yah. They made a covenant against Yah. Okay. They made it against the creator of the heavens and the earth. And guess who it was? It's Edom. He's the first one. He's the first one on the list. Why? Because he's the opportunist. He's always trying to find a way because of his grudge. And then he goes along and gets his father-in-law's family. Ishmael, they're part of it. Moab is part of it. The Hagarim are part of it. Goval and Ammon, which is the brother of Moab. Amalek, Esau's great-grandson or grandson. The Philistine from Gergar. They're part of it. Those living with Zor. Ashur, part of it. There too are allied with them to reinforce the descendants of Lot, which is your family. So what do we have in common here? All of these individuals, okay, have had a relationship with Israel. All of them are related in some type of form or fashion. Ishmael, is it Ishmael himself? It's everybody that's in his family line. Is it Moab just by this individual by himself? No, it's his whole entire people, his people, his people, his people. Philistine is where Gergar was Avimelech, the one who made a covenant with Abraham, Yitzhak. Ashur is part of the Shemitic line. He's part of it. They all joined up with the descendants of Lot, which is Abraham's nephew. They said, let's wipe out Israel. And guess what? They've been trying to do that ever since. And you know what? These people are still around. Yah has not destroyed all of them yet. So here's the family. So out of Abraham's family, you got the Medians are against him, and all these people too. They're all family. All of Ishmael's family, the Ishmaelim, that's all these people and their families. You got Esau, all his families, all of them. They're all against them. We have enemies. And it's a mindset. Esau, you ask, well, who is he today? I know that's a question. Esau are the so-called Jewish people. They have conveniently went in and have filled the vacuum in the hole that we created. Our disobedience allowed them to come in. When Jerusalem was destroyed, they set up. Yes, Azania, I see your hand. Go ahead.
I just had one question in reference to Esau being the Jewish people. How does that work where he, in the Song of Moshe, I think it's 32:8, where he says that he was going to make us, because we serve deities that weren't Yohe-Wahe, he was going to make us jealous with a people that weren't a people. And so, I mean, so it's like, how can Esau be a brother and a people that are not a people? Or is he not necessarily talking about them there?
That's a great question. So let's answer it.
Okay.
All right. So you guys ever heard of the Idumeans? You guys ever heard of the Idumeans?
I've heard of them.
Yes.
The Idumeans are from Esau. Okay. So when Yah says in Deuteronomy 32, that's the reference you're making. He says, I'm going to make you jealous by people who are not a people, right? Right. He said a vile nation. That's what he said. Let's go look at it right quick. So historically, thank you for your question, Nakoti. Let's go right here. Let's look at it.
It's a 32 and 21.
Yep, it's in Davarim. Yep. 21 through 23, I know. He says here, so everyone can follow along what she's talking about. So at the end, Yah had this as a song that Yah wanted the children of Israel to memorize and to understand that what would happen to them in the last days. Okay. Then he says, this right here. Okay. He said, they aroused, 21, they aroused my jealousy with the non-God. Right. And he provoked me with their vanities. I will arouse their jealousy with a non-people and provoke them with a vile nation. Okay. So the question would be like, first question, the obvious question, like, who are these people? Right. So when you heard this term, a non-people, you would say, well, that's not Esau. That cannot be Esau. Right. But there's clues. When he talks about a non-people, when Israel was dispersed and when Esau as well has what they would call has gone throughout the nations. And they have not only, they've mixed their seeds as well with people. Okay. They have done this on purpose. Right. So you can't really know what their identity is. This is a matter of identity theft. Okay. So just like Jacob had took Esau's birthright, Esau, on the other half, on his side, is saying, well, I want my birthright back. Okay. But he just can't do it outwardly where everybody would know it's him. Okay. He's trying to repeat what his brother did to him. So what he's doing, he's going like what they call incognito. And he'll try to take it because they know they can't take it like out front, because everybody like, well, you're not Israel. You can't really do that because we know who this land belongs to. So what they have done is they have assumed the identity of Yaakov, because it's always going to be about these brothers. It's going to be about Esau, and it's always going to be about Yaakov. Okay. Esau is the vile nation. When you look at the things and items that I've showed you about this in particular people, right? You guys remember some of the things that I've showed you about them, about their sexual practices and how they feel about pedophilia, and they have sex with animals and all these types of things. They're trying to take away the identity of Yaakov through religion. So they've created a religion. Okay. And you know what that religion is. The Idumeans came into power, and they're under Esau's family. They're the ones who came into the temple and they set up a priesthood. When you do your research, look up the Idumeans. They intermarried, okay, and they took on the identity of being Jewish. Okay. When you look at Herod the Great, you guys remember Herod? He's not just a New Testament biblical character. It's true. There is in Herod. There's a Herod 1 and Herod 2 and Agrippa and all that whole entire family. There are the Idumeans. They're Esau. Okay. So what happened is Esau has integrated himself with all different types of peoples, and he's under the guise of being a non-nation, because the people don't think he exists today, but he does. He's existing under this idea of religion. So what Esau did is instead of him following Yah's ways, right, he believes that he can usurp and take and supplant Jacob from his inheritance by going under a religious tense. That's what he's doing. And of course, when we hear this non-people, we get confused because we don't really understand what that means. Every other people are a people. They are. They are a people. So every nation has its own, customs, its culture and everything. So my question is where's Esau's culture? We know what Jacob's culture is. Well, guess what? We're going around today saying that we are the children of Israel. And guess who's saying that we're not? Who's the people over there saying that they're Jacob? Or better yet, they're saying that they're Yehud, they don't even say they're Yehudi. They say that they're Jewish. You see, they're taking our heritage, and Yah has used them. He's used them to fill the vacuum. And what they did is they took our writings and they decided to create a religion. And they create a Yiddish language. So Esau is very, very crafty. He's very smart. And if you read in 34 and 35, you're going to also find, I'll answer your question in just a moment, Rivka. You'll find in 34 and 35 that they were instrumental in helping to assist to get rid of the children of Israel. That's been their goal from the time. And as we just read in 83 in Psalms, they're the ones who are heading everything. They're the first ones in line. Go ahead, Kwa.
I was
Oh,
just
yeah,
gonna
go
say, I was just gonna say that they, they get insulted when they're called Hebrews. And that should be a good indicator to us that they don't identify with being Hebrew.
No, they don't.
They don't.
Well, then, can you answer this? Then in Isaiah 14, where it goes on about the fall of Lucifer, and it says in 22 that the Almighty will cut off his offspring and posterity. Is that a separate line from Esau?
Yeah, because more specifically, when you're dealing with that, Yah is talking about the wicked.
Oh.
Outside of Esau, there are wicked people too. But like we saw in our presentation, like he's the first family.
Okay.
He's the one who's instrumental in saying, let's wipe them out. He's the go. Like when he went down to marry Ishmael's daughter, it was not only because he said, well, my father and mother would enjoy this. It was simply because he knew, like, I'm going to make an alliance. He's been bent on this the whole time. They're still in it. These families still exist. Moab still exists. Yah has not destroyed Esau yet. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So if he hasn't destroyed him, who is he? We have clues who he is. He's taken over and created a religion out of the Torah. Remember, he didn't want Yah's ways. Remember, he had no regard for it. He didn't want the birthright until after he realized what had happened. And then he started crying and asking, the creator to do all kinds of stuff. He said he's going to live by the sword. The people, the Ashkenazi and the Turkish and where they're from, those people are very dangerous people. They have lived by the sword. They don't want to put it out there like that, but they have. Go ahead, Kwa.
Where it says that Yepeth shall live in Shem's tents, that's not Edom because that is their Shemites. So we have to distinguish between the two. Who are the people that are living in Shem's tents?
At that time, or are you talking about right now? No one's living in our tents. Because Yah, if you go to Leviticus like we were, and he said that the land is left desolate. The land is desolate. The land is desolate. Okay, and it's ruined, and she's enjoying her Shabbat. So ain't nobody living on that land. No one's living on our land. That land is desolate. You see? So we get confused because we're thinking, well, that surely has to be the land because they're there and they said it was. Well, they said a lot of other things. But I tell you what, I'll do a deeper study on the dome for you. I didn't have a lot of time today, but I will. I'll show it to you. That my point is that they want their birthright. And they've been in pursuit of it. And the only way that they can get it is by false pretense. And they're doing it through the means of religion And the only way they can substantiate their religion is by using the Torah to do so. That's why they have their own books and their own, their own ways of doing things. That's why they've added to what he said, you see. So the Esau is definitely the Jewish people. And there's other people who understand that as well. Yes, I see some other hands.
My question is, so you're saying that Noah's son Japheth turned into Edom?
No, what I'm saying is Edom has been scattered as well. He's been intermarrying with women. He's been doing it all too, just like Yaakov has. We've been all mixed up. So when you look at someone, you can't tell like if that's Edom or not, right? Only reason why we know that the Jews are Edom is simply because of what they're after. They're pretending to be us.
But they're not the Ashkenazis?
No, the Ashkenazis are Germans, right? And so, but I'm saying to you, they go under that heading. It's like he's in disguise now. I'm gonna get some information for us. I'm gonna maybe let's do our study on this coming up Tuesday, or Yom Shalishi, forgive me. I will show you more details about why I said what I said. I will prove to you that they are Esau. They are. They just been under disguise. They've been marrying with a whole bunch of people. And then once they did this, and they migrated to all these different lands, they actually migrated up into those northern lands. You see, so they didn't stay in one place, right? They didn't, and they're brothers. So, and they're twins. Okay, so they're the only people on the face of this earth that are saying that they're keeping the Torah. And you ask, well, how are they keeping the Torah? Because they deliberately did this through history. And I got to show you what the Idumeans are. I got to show you how they use religion. I got to show you these things. So they've integrated with Japheth, just like Israel has migrated and got involved with Japheth. They're all mixed up together. Israel is actually mixed with some Canaanites, as you see here. Judah married a woman who's a Canaanite woman. We're not a purebred. We're not a purebred people. So we got to keep our minds open to understand, number one, first and foremost, it's a mindset. Secondly, it is a type of group of people, right? And they're the ones who are instrumental in the destruction of our people. And they're the ones who are involved in the selling of us. They're the ones who are involved in saying, let's get rid of them. They're the ones who were handing us over. They're the ones who said, if you read 34 of Ezekiel and 34 of Isaiah and 35 of Ezekiel, you'll find out that they say, okay, now this belongs to us now. Their territory belongs to us. This is what they're after. They're after the inheritance. Okay. So, from a historical perspective, you're going to find out that those individuals are the people that are Esau. They're the Esau. A lot of people thought the Esau was these white Americans because they're red and they're hairy. That's Esau. That's what the people on the streets are saying. Esau is after the birthright. That's who he's after. He's after the heritage. See, so he'll create a system, and then what they'll do is they'll create another land, and what they'll do is they'll go in and say that this is the land. Our land is not in that part of the land. Our land is not. Yah says, I'm going to make you as numerous as the stars of the sky. And you telling me he's going to put you in a very small space like that? No, it's somewhere in Africa. Go ahead. Someone had their hand up.
Yes, I did. I had one more question, and it's on a different topic. It's about the covenants you were speaking of. I'm like really interested because I see how bound Israel is by covenants, and you have a lot of people, probably for personal reasons. You see people putting up posts about how anybody can be Israel. All they have to do is love the Torah. and they basically become Israel. And I just wanted to know if you could speak a little bit on, and then they use Isaiah 56 to back it up. I've
Yes.
always, yes, I've always seen some confusion with Isaiah 56. It goes on, don't let the eunuch say that he is a dry tree. But then it also says in Deuteronomy 23:1 that no man with crushed or severed genitals who's been emasculated can enter the assembly of Yahweh. And so I just wanted you to speak on, like Psalms 83, these people have made a covenant against the Most High and against his beloved. And so is it possible at the end of time to have someone, declare in their heart love for the Most High, and all that is their forefathers' covenants and works are no longer recognized? And is that possible?
I like what you mentioned. Number one, when Yah talks about Yisrael, and he mentions the sons of Israel, they are a set apart people. Even when we realize, we can see this in Ezekiel where he says, well, of course, a foreigner will be able to take some inheritance in the land, and has the Most High changed in his mind about some of the things that he has said. He does have a right to change his mind, right? So we know that. But we also know that when he talks about the names that are on the city gates are all the names of the children of Israel. Israel is a nation of people that have in their descendants, their bloodline descendants. Foreigners and strangers can join themselves. As he has told us that, don't let them say that, not that you're not my people, but the fact that you have no stake in the game, meaning like you can't be around me because you're not bloodline. That's not true. If you decide that you want to follow me, you become part of the nation. Okay. You're not biologically connected in that way, but you do become part of it. You have the same rights and you have the same privileges as they do, because he said it shall be one Torah for both the stranger and those who live in Israel. It's one Torah, right? So we can't get around that. We understand that, but also to the question about the eunuch and the question about those who have crushed testicles. That's something of concern, because you think about one who has, when you talk about someone who has crushed testicles, that's a lot different than one who has said that they are going to devote themselves. When we talk about being a eunuch, is it just a person who's devoted himself to the Most High and says, well, I'm not going to get married, right? So automatically we got our understanding about a eunuch as being one who's been definitely had his testicles cut off, right? Because he's decided that he's not going to have any kids, or they were made eunuchs. Like, for example, you guys do know that Daniel and them, right? You do know they were made eunuchs, right?
I didn't know. I didn't. No.
If you're in the king's chambers, right? They take that away from them, right? So they became eunuchs to them. So we understand eunuchs is like, having your testicles cut off. It's quite a difference between that and just having damage to your testicles, right? So one can be willing, like say, I'm not gonna have any kids. So he's just saying, all because you don't have any offspring, right? By you serving me, you have a greater name. And the thing that connects them, he says, if you would take hold of my covenant, if you would take hold of my covenant. And the covenant that he's making reference to is saying the Torah. He's not talking about, that which was promised to the children of Israel, like, you're going to number the stars of the stars of the heavens and the dust of the sea. And he ain't talking about that. He's saying, like, you guys take hold of my covenant, which is the Shabbat, more specifically in that chapter. He's really dealing about the Shabbat. He's saying, if you take hold of the Shabbat and you keep your hand from doing that which is evil on that day, then, don't say that you're not my people, because I'm not only going to gather Israel, but I'm also going to gather those who are joined to Israel, right? So one Torah for us all, but it doesn't have anything, that in particular passage has nothing to do with bloodline. The covenant for us is the one he has given to us through Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. That is to our fathers, and that's inheritance. That is the what they call the Nakala. That's what belongs to us. Our land belongs to us. And as a concession to the people, he says, if the foreigners living among you, they should have a place to live, right? So they're going to live among you, and I'll give them inheritance. And even the prince of Israel in Ezekiel chapter 45 and 40, I think it's 45 and 46, if he wants to give some of his property to one of his slaves, he could, right? So we see Yah making some adjustments there, right? So, we just got to wait and see. That's what I would say. We just have to wait and see. But when it comes to bloodline, you can't claim, well, none of us really right now at this moment. We have to wait for Yah to verify. Yah has to verify. We don't even know what tribe we're from.
Yes, Toldoth, yes.
We don't even know that, right? So, but what we do know is this. We know that whoever has a desire for the Torah should be honored. I don't care if they're a foreigner or a stranger or Israel, even within our own people, our heritage, people in our own family don't want to honor the Torah. So anyone who decides that they're going to honor the Torah, they have my honor. David said, I'm a friend of those who love you. So I'm going to make friends with those who love the Torah. Those who hate the Torah, those are the ones that I fight.
Hallelujah. Yes.
So for us, let's focus on, if the person loves Yah, we should love them. Because you know what Yah said? Yah said, I love the foreigner. I love the foreigner. I love the stranger. And he says, if you ever mistreat them and a word comes to me, I'm going to take care of it. I love them. Yeah, I love them. Yeah. Praise be to our living Elohim. But I'm going to do a more thorough study on Edom to give everybody a little bit deeper understanding about what I'm talking about, so you can fully understand it. Okay.